Hello, everyone. You are listening to Cinema 5000. My name is Mallory. This is my podcast. I got 7 movies to talk to you about on this episode. And I do want to announce, since we have just hit the 3-year anniversary mark of this podcast, I am going to be, in the near future, putting episodes up for viewing, technically, but listening on YouTube. I know a lot of people use YouTube to listen to podcasts, so I figure why not take that leap and do so. There's going to be other things coming in the future for not changes to the podcast, but new things. You'll know about them when they happen or about to happen, but that's the new announcement. Let's talk about movies. We are at 5,712 films. And where do we start? The first one is It's My Turn from 1980, directed by Claudia Weil. The tagline is, just when she thought she had everything right, in stepped Mr. Wrong. A successful but stressed mathematics professor goes to her father's wedding and falls in love with her father's bride's son, a prematurely retired pro baseball player. She must choose between him and her current boyfriend, between Chicago and New York, and between research and administration. So this stars Jill Clayburgh as Dr. Catherine Kate Gunzinger, and she has this wonderful boyfriend Homer, who's played by Charles Grodin. All is good in Chicago. They have a great apartment. You know, life is life, and she's thinking about maybe checking out this new job. In the meantime, she has to go to New York City for her father, who is going to get married to this wonderful new lady, and she's a little on edge about everything happening, and she doesn't know this woman too well, but when she gets there, things are awkward for like the rehearsal dinner, and she's just feeling a little strange about things, and someone rescues her from conversation and awkwardness, and that person is Ben, who's played by Michael Douglas, and he kind of swoops her off her feet, and they start to talking and chatting, and things are awkward in that way that when you meet someone for the first time who is like maybe attractive, can be. They keep talking, they keep doing things, they keep spending the evening together after the dinner, and they start to realize that the two of them might be an item, despite the fact that Ben is married and that Kate has a boyfriend. So what's gonna happen between them? Well, you know, they resist. They are very level-headed people. They understand that this is just a thing that is happening, a thing that probably shouldn't happen, but how can they resist each other? I really like Jill Clayburgh in this. I've never seen anything I didn't like her in anyway. I recently watched the film Starting Over that she's in with Burt Reynolds, and I wasn't a big fan of that film, but she's of course good in it, and she's also great in An Unmarried Woman, which is a better film overall than both of those. Michael Douglas is Michael Douglas, you know, but this is Michael Douglas in 1980. He's very handsome in this. I thought he was very well cast opposite her, and they have such great chemistry together. Like, I couldn't resist the thought of them like getting together. Like, oh, they're so good together. Like, how could you not? Overall, I do think this movie is a bit limited in its scope, because it's really just trying to hash out this relationship possibly starting between these two people. Like, will it or won't it happen? And it does not really venture too far into the conflict of what's happening, and it is a short movie. It's only about 90 minutes, but I did enjoy this. I thought it was fun, a little different in its pacing and how it sets up what's going to happen between these two people, and I think it might turn off some folks in how like these people talk and how the dynamics sort of work out together when they're starting to get to know each other, because it doesn't really follow. It follows a 3-act structure, but it doesn't really have like I don't know, something about the pacing of it is like a little awkward, but I think it should be that way. If it was more conventional, it'd just be written off as just a waste of time. But I know this was not like a very successful film when it first came out, and I think in this day and age, like, we're more accepting of movies that maybe have like a little bit more offbeat pacing or just have a little something different going on, because in the 80s, it's like this was after the 70s, so the 70s was like the Renaissance era of like film and like the more creative artsy films coming going in more into the mainstream in the 80s. The clash of that, sort of leftoverness of that, is like happening here, and things change a bit with the indie scene, like as it does in every decade. But It's My Turn from 1980, directed by Claudia Weil. I will recommend this. I gave this 3 stars. It's a good time. I watched this on the Criterion channel. I don't remember it really being available on streaming for a while, I want to say, because I had heard of it and I was just kind of like, oh, well, it's got Sheila Clayburgh and Michael Douglas. Why not? It's a good time. I recommend it. Yeah, it's a nice film, and I think it's very realistic when it talks about how when people meet each other and they like each other, how they deal with things. Like, there's real questions asked in there. Okay, something else. It's Devil in the Flesh from 1998, directed by Stephen Cohen. The tagline is, she's a hot, cold-blooded killer. When her mother is killed in a mysterious house fire, rebellious teen Debbie Strand is sent to live with her grandmother, where she becomes even more unhinged. She develops an intense crush on her hunky creative writing teacher, Peter Rinaldi, but her numerous attempts at seduction end in failure. Soon, Peter's friends start turning up dead, and he fears that his fiancée, Marilyn, may be Debbie's next victim. Debbie Strand is played by Rose McGowan. She goes to live with her terrible grandmother. I say terrible. Yes, it's terrible, but it's also very ridiculous and very silly. And the grandmother is probably the best part of this movie. She's just like this cartoony version of an evil grandma, and she has this like little dog that Debbie hates. And grandma's like, "You can't go out looking like that. You look like a whore," kind of thing. When it comes to Debbie's style. And Rose McGowan is definitely doing like a Poison Ivy kind of like seductive teen kind of thing, where she's a bad girl. It also kind of this movie also reminded me of a movie I don't think I've actually seen all of, but the movie The Crush with Carrie Elwes and Alicia Silverstone. I want to say I saw parts of that and like the ending on cable, and this just gives me the same kind of thought of like this teen girl who's up to no good and going after the older guy. And the really bad thing about this movie, above all, like, it is not a good movie any day of the week, but the worst part is that the guy, Peter, who's supposed to be the hot older guy she's trying to seduce, he's terrible. He's unfortunately just not very attractive, and I think you need that. You need that in the film. You need the guy to be like just slightly hunky, and this guy, I'm sad to say, he's just not. So it's like when she's like going after this guy, and clearly Rose McGowan is a very attractive woman, and she's playing older than like she's older than a teenager, so you don't get the ick like factor of like she's a teenage girl going after this guy. This is after Scream and a couple other films she's made. This is around the time of Jawbreaker. And that's one thing about the movies, is that you have these 20-year-olds playing teenagers. So even when they're doing these things that you'd be like, no, it's a little bit easier to swallow because the actors are clearly much older. But the two of them together, I'm just like, why is she going after this guy? It doesn't make any sense. But Debbie's not supposed to be a good person anyway, any day of the week. She's supposed to be a little bit of a devil, so to speak. Yeah, it's a bad movie. It's very cheesy. It feels like it was made for cable, and then they split in like this one sex scene. It's between Peter and his girlfriend, I will tell you that, to just make it a bit more like, oh, this is rated R, so to speak. I looked this movie up to see like where it had been, and it had never actually been released theatrically, so that makes me think it was like maybe just something that played on like Showtime or something. I don't know. I didn't research much because it's not really worth researching, I guess. Or maybe it was a straight to DVD thing in America, no, it would be VHS. It just did only play in theaters in Indonesia, but I do want to mention that despite it being like a very poorly produced film and not having really much to it, like they filmed this in like maybe like 5 places. It's a small production. The costume design though is on point. Like everything everybody's wearing is so late 90s. Like there were certain clothing things and accessories that the girls had in this movie that were things I wore as a teenager in the late 90s. So great job on that. But no, this is not a good movie. Devil in the Flesh from 1998, directed by Steve Cohen. I gave it 1 star. And why did I watch this? Well, I saw it was on Tubi. I was like, whatever, I'll just put this on. I'm in the mood for some trash. And I sure got it. I would recommend watching Rose McGowan in Jawbreaker instead of this one. That's a nasty little film about teenagers, but it's a little bit more fun. It's like, it's bad girl stuff, and bad girl stuff done a little bit better. Up next, we have the film Trick from 1999, directed by Jim Fall. The tagline is, a story about two guys trying to make it in the big city. Gabriel is a young, aspiring musical composer whose life seems stuck in the first act. When his new musical number gets a critical reception, a theater colleague, Perry, tells Gabriel that he needs to get a life before he can write about one. So he heads straight for his local gay bar. Christian Campbell plays Gabriel. He's just looking for a good time because he's had a bad day. He is best friends with Catherine, who's played by Tori Spelling, and when they have this musical performance, critical, like this like work group kind of thing, or workshop rather, where she's performing his musical he's written, it just doesn't go well, and he's depressed. So he goes out, and he's hoping to maybe meet somebody, and everybody he meets at the bar is like not quite what he has in mind, and it's people pursuing him not pursuing people. So he feels awkward about everything, but he ends up running into this dancer who's played by John Paul Peacock. Mark, this dancer, is a go-go boy, so he's attractive, and he, shakes for the money, he likes to have a good time. But him and Gabriel have really good chemistry together, and they start to think, hey, maybe we should spend some time together tonight. So they end up trying to go back to Gabriel's apartment, and unfortunately Gabriel's crazy roommate comes back too early, and it's just a studio, so they have no privacy. They end up leaving, they go somewhere else, they try to get to somebody else's apartment who might not be around, and circumstances are just not in the cards for these two guys. But as the night goes on, they end up starting to realize that they like each other, and there's a possibility that this one night thing might be more than just one night. Or will it? We'll see. I enjoyed this. It's a light indie comedy from the 90s, very indie. I'm serious. They're so lucky they had New York City in the way they did to film around, because there's so many settings in this that just feel like, small movie stuff. But there's a certain charm to this that I did like. You might recognize people in the film like Missy Pyle, Miss Coco Peru. They show up in little bit parts. But it is just, this is the kind of film that, I don't know if this played at Sundance. I gotta assume it did. Let's look it up. Let's see. IMDb. What do you say? Nope, I hit the wrong thing. Filming locations, yeah. Filmed entirely in Manhattan. Yes, it did play at Sundance in 1999. How did I know? I don't know. Yeah, Trick is it's a gay rom-com. That's what it is. It's kind of like the movie that Bros was assuming never existed. Do you remember that movie Bros? But it does. And I think everybody in the cast does the best they can with this. They're not all professional well-known actors, but like I said, there's a certain charm to this that is really gone from a lot of rom-coms and small movies, even independent movies, and there's nothing really hard-hitting slice of life dramatic of it. No, it just wants to be a light good time. So I recommend Trick from 1999, directed by Jim Fall. I gave this 3 stars, and it's available on Tubi, Amazon Prime, Peacock, Hoopla. I ended up watching this on Canopy. I had never seen it streaming there before. I don't know if it's been on all those services, but I've known about this movie for a long time. When you study film, you know about kind of what indie films were in the 90s, and there were a lot of movies like Trick were just shot in New York City with a very, very small cast, not much of a budget, but they had the city, they had a script, and they made what they could. And I will always cherish movies like this. I will probably rate them too high too, because there's just this something about these movies that they feel, they're not the most amazing things you've ever seen in your life, but there's just something about New York City through the lens of 90s filmmaking that it just isn't the same today. So yeah, no, but it's a good thing. We'll have the movies. Okay. Up next, we have Paddington in Peru from 2024, directed by Dougal Wilson. The tagline is, "A little bear goes a long way." Paddington travels to Peru to visit his beloved Aunt Lucy, who now resides at the home for retired bears. But with the Brown family in tow, a thrilling adventure ensues when a mystery plunges them into an unexpected journey through the Amazon rainforest and up to the mountain peaks of Peru. First and foremost, Ben Whishaw, most importantly, is back as Paddington. He's just so charming and lovely. What great voice acting. Ben Whishaw as Paddington, one of the best. Hugh Bonneville is back as Henry Brown. His wife, Mary Brown, though, is now played by Emily Mortimer. So you might be mourning the loss of Sally Hawkins. Scheduling didn't work out, so she was not back for this film. But I think Emily Mortimer does a good job, and I think she was good casting. Like, easy good casting, slides right in. No problem, does the job that the mother figure has to do, where Mary Brown, makes sure she takes care of her family and supports her husband in all his workings. The kids are back, Judy and Jonathan, played by Madeline Harris and Samuel Jocelyn. But we end up meeting Hunter Cabot along the way. When Aunt Lucy is missing, the Brown family decides to take a boat on this mission to find her, because she's gone missing from the home for retired bears that's run by Reverend Mother, who's played by Olivia Colman. So Hunter Cabot kind of has this conquistador past to him. Antonio Banderas is not South American. He is Spanish, so Spanish conquistador. It makes sense when you see the movie. You might be questioning that, but trust me. And he has a daughter, Gina, who's played by Carla Tus. And the two of them have this boat that the Brown family gets on. And so the journey is off to find Aunt Lucy. There's all these little charming touches that you expect from the Paddington films, like in the past, like little backstory things and, fun little details that are just cute and fun. And this is trying to fill the shoes of Paddington 2. It does not fill the shoes. How could it? How could you top Paddington 2? Paddington 2 is just a wonderful, charming, fantastic film with a great performance by Hugh Grant, and then of course the usual Paddington goings-on. But did I like this movie? Seeing it as a woman, as an adult who has no children, yes, of course I liked this movie. It was very nice, very fun, a good time. Maybe a little long. It's 106 minutes. It could probably have been like 10 minutes shorter, but I can't complain too much because this movie wanted to do a lot, and I think it did most of it pretty successfully. Above all, though, as much as Antonio Banderas gets a lot of time to sort of have this fun character, so does Olivia Colman as Reverend Mother. She is a nun. She's very, very suspicious. I will say, very suspicious. She's so much fun in this, and I hope Olivia Colman just keeps doing comedy, because she should. She has the best timing. She has such an animated face. She knows how to act and perform in ridiculous, suspicious ways. I keep saying suspicious. Why? But it's a good time. Paddington in Peru from 2024, directed by Dougal Wilson. Fun for the family. Fun if you like the Paddington movies. Obviously, it's not the best one, but I feel like it's kind of on par with the first Paddington film. I can't really complain much. There might be little things you see about this and you're just like, oh, well, that's like a little much or something. I don't know. It's still such a good time, and you got the wonderful bear to follow. So yes, I do think children will love it very much. So there was tons of children in the theater when I went and saw it, and nobody was making any noise, no complaining, no daddy, I don't like this movie. None of that was happening. It was a good time. It's happened. I don't know how many times you go to the movies and there are children around, but I feel like there's always a child who's like, I don't like this. And they're like sitting in their seat. Maybe they look around at the audience and maybe they start walking on the floor. If you got the stadium seating, they're just kind of like dancing around or whatever to try to keep themselves awake, or I don't know. Okay, up next we have Singles from 1992, directed by Cameron Crowe. The tagline is, "Love is a game, easy to start, hard to finish." A group of young adults in their 20s who share an apartment in the city of Seattle ponder on love and face all the challenges of adulthood. This stars Bridget Fonda, Campbell Scott, Kira Sedgwick, Matt Dillon, Sheila Kelly, Bill Pullman, James Lee Gross, Ali Walker, Tom Skerritt, Jeremy Piven, Tim Burton. What a cast. What a filmmaker, what a writer. But I gotta say, though, I just didn't care for this one. Wah, wah. This takes place in the Seattle grunge scene. We have these up-and-coming people who are trying to figure out what they want to do with their life, what's their job, what's their purpose. Kira Sedgwick plays Linda. She starts to get into a relationship with Steve, who's played by Campbell Scott, and I was really disappointed. These two people are sort of supposed to be our central characters. Like, the most time is definitely focused on them, and I was really disappointed in that because it feels like they more were kind of like on the, you know, the fringes, like the yuppie 90s thing. And why were we so emphasized on them? I think Bridget Fonda was not given her due when she plays the part of Janet in this, who's kind of dealing with her romantic life and like how she's like into this guy Cliff, who's played by Matt Dillon. He's a total rock guy, but like he doesn't like really want to settle down. Like, yeah. And so like we have Eddie Vedder and Chris Cornell who show up in little bit parts related to Cliff. And why wasn't there just more of her? I felt like she got the shaft. I don't know what was going on here. And I didn't feel like this movie just really had it. Like, it reminded me so much of the movie Reality Bites, which I don't think is like a great movie, but at least in that movie, its focus of just like questioning what it's like to be a 20-something in the 90s feels a little bit more realized than this one, like for better or worse. And I felt like the priorities of this one just were out of whack. I didn't really care too much about what was going on, and yeah, it just kind of felt like it just wasn't there. Like, it's like 50% there. And I wanted it to be at least 65, 75% there. But it just kind of felt like I was watching the movie and things were happening, and the heft and like weight of like things going on, or even the amusement of it, of these people trying to find romance any way they can. Not so successful for me. So, Singles from 1992, directed by Cameron Crowe, had to give this 2.5 stars, which even feels generous, but it's just not a badly made movie. It's just not a great one. You know, it's like when you're watching it, your brain is just kind of like, why isn't this working? Why isn't this just like as tightly, you know, constructed as it could be? Like, I don't know. Maybe it's Cameron Crowe. I hate to say it. I just am not a big fan of him. Yeah, I've seen most of his movies. Okay, the only narrative film of his I have not seen is We Bought a Zoo. Why would I watch that? But now that I'm older, Almost Famous, watching it now as an older person, I think it's like a bit too much. I don't know, if like a rose-colored fantasy kind of thing doesn't quite work for me. Vanilla Sky has never worked for me. Jerry Maguire, I've actually never really been a fan of that movie. Like, I like the performances, but I don't like the script. And then Say Anything, I'm not a fan of that either. Aloha, who's a fan of that? And same with Elizabethtown. Yeah, Cameron Crowe. Maybe I am just not a Cameron Crowe gal, unfortunately. That's how it goes. All right, up next we have Choose Me from 1984, directed by Alan Rudolph. The tagline is, "In the middle of the night when there's no one else." Several lost soul night owls, including a nightclub owner, a talk radio relationship counselor, and an internient stranger, have encounters that expose their contradictions and anxieties about love and acceptance. Genevieve Bijold plays Nancy, who does the love talk show, the night show, talking about romance with her callers and blah blah blah. She goes to the bar that's run by Eve, played by Leslie Ann Warren, and Eve's lounge one night has Keith Carradine, who plays Mickey, walk in, and he's very infatuated with Eve. But then again, is he a guy who's just infatuated with anybody he meets? I don't know. But these people are all searching for love in all the wrong places, and they all kind of intertwine with each other. And at the same time, there becomes a realization of, yeah, this isn't going to last long. But what if it could? No. There's a certain confidence that all these people have that, like, I wish they had their cojones. Just going into the night and being like, yep, it's gonna be you tonight, maybe. This is like a movie that wants to dabble into lust and like a slight, how do I say it? Like an infatuation with love, but not like actual love. And I found this movie like really charming and kind of offbeat in how it talks about romance and how these people work together or maybe don't work together with their interactions and what they're seeking. And I don't know how else to describe it. But I have to say, every performance in this movie is just really, really excellent. There's like no, well, okay, I'm not gonna say there's one performance that I thought was like maybe just a little weak, but it sort of worked for the character, and I can't spoil why. But Genevieve Bijold as the nighttime radio host, really great. Keith Carradine as Mickey. Good God, what a dude. And then Leslie Ann Warren as Eve. Like she just wants love, and she might get it. Oh yeah, but this is a, how do I say it? It's not a romantic, like, erotic thriller or erotic film or anything. It's just about, yeah, it's about lust. It's about satisfaction. It's about desire. Yeah, I think desire above all. But I would recommend Choose Me from 1984. I gave this 3.5 stars. It's directed by Alan Rudolph. I have never seen an Alan Rudolph movie before, and now I am so curious about his other works. Remember My Name has been on my watch list on Letterboxd for quite a while. Trouble in Mind, Mrs. Parker and the Vicious Circle, Mortal Thoughts. Mortal Thoughts might be the one I watch next, and then Welcome to LA, another movie with Keith Carradine. I think I started to watch that once and I fell asleep. Not a slight on the movie. I actually have seen an Alan Rudolph movie, The Secret Lives of Dentists. Wow, that's a throwback. 2002. Campbell Scott again. But yeah, I think I'm gonna prioritize watching the films of Alan Rudolph, because Choose Me is just, it's unique. It's like its own thing, and there was a certain tone to the film that I really quite enjoyed. He also directed Julie Christie in her Academy Award nominated performance in Afterglow, another movie I never have seen all of, and I should. And looks like it's on all the streaming services now, which is great, because one time I tried to watch it and I had this like VHS rip of it on my computer, and the quality was just not that great. That was ages ago though. However, another thing I need to mention about Choose Me, I watched this on Roku, Roku with ads, and it is not the best presentation of this movie, but don't get discouraged about watching it. It is coming to the Criterion Collection in a couple months. If I think it's April. I don't think it's March. But I'm excited to see how that movie looks, and its new restoration, which I assume has got to be so much better than what the Roku look of it is. Yeah, it's not great looking on Roku, but you know, when a movie's good and the performances are good and it's got the stuff going on, you know, quality maybe doesn't matter. It is a cropped version on Roku too, so yeah, but I still quite enjoyed it, so it's a good one. Our final film is Wicked from 2024, directed by John M. Chu. The tagline is, "Everyone deserves the chance to fly." When ostracized and misunderstood, green-skinned Elphaba is forced to share a room with the popular aristocrat Glinda. The two's unlikely friendship is tested as they begin to fulfill their respective destinies as Glinda the Good and the Wicked Witch of the West. Cynthia Erivo stars as Elphaba, and I wish this movie was better for her. She is such a talented vocalist. I think she's a great actress. Good performer. Like, everything she's in, she's good. And she's good here as Elphaba, but I can't help feel like there's just not enough of her in this movie. Like, her character has a couple songs she sings, like not very many songs. I was weirded out by that. But she just kind of plods along and goes along. And then Ariana Grande plays Galinda and Glinda. I don't understand that. She has the more showier part in this film, and I should mention that this is the first Wicked movie. And she does fine. Her singing's good. I, however, found most of this to be quite hollow, quite slight. I think the first hour of this movie could have been like an entire montage of the school. It didn't even need to be more than like 15 minutes. And this movie drags itself out so needlessly. It's 162 minutes, and I don't even think there were that many songs in this. And the songs that were there, just not really done very well, I think. I mean, the big number at the end is fine, I guess, but I just felt like this was like not done very, how do I say it? There's a certain thing about this movie that feels like they threw so much money at everything but never really made the effort to make it great and grand. And I felt so underwhelmed by it. I think the costuming itself is not really great. There's like a couple things here and there that were nice. And when they finally got to Oz, it's a very garish and ugly like idea of coloring, and it reminded me so much of like not maybe the second one too, the Alice in Wonderland movies that were from like the 2010s. The first one's done by Tim Burton. Just like this bad concept of coloring that is like not attractive. There is like a certain performance bit that happens in Oz where two characters come out who have, you know who they are. I'm not spoiling it. They have great costumes, like costumes that feel imaginative and fantasy enough that they fit. And all the while that this movie is happening and it's looking like this and it's not really great, we're supposed to be believing that this movie is very connected to the original Wizard of Oz, and I didn't get that at all. Like I was just watching this and I'm like, oh, so they're doing this whole thing and then the continuation is like redoing the Wizard of Oz, right? Are they gonna do that? Because I almost feel like if they don't, like, what's the point of this? It so wants to be part of that original feel for the Wizard of Oz. You see it in the titles, and you see, there's something else going on. I can't really tell you, but I felt this was just like, yeah, they just threw all this money at this movie and its designs, and they didn't really think we should do it that way for the better. They were just kind of like, oh, well, we're just going to go with these tried and true kind of aesthetic ideas that are kind of working for these horrible movies that make a lot of money but nobody likes and have no impact on society and culture and just exist, bad taste. It's bad taste. It's not good. What else can I say? The plotting of like this thing with like the animals and what's going on, it's like it's not explained very well. When Jonathan Bailey shows up as Fiyero, I thought he was okay, but I didn't like his costume. I hated his hair. Just like, what are these choices here? Man, I don't like this. I'm left feeling that it's either like such a terrible movie that it was extended and made so long so they could have another one. And then I'm left feeling like maybe I am just not the person for this at all. Maybe I should not even bother with the second one. But I'm so curious if the second one continues everything this is doing and to what end. I don't know. A lot of bad choices. Wicked left me feeling like this was wicked bad. Yeah. I don't think anybody is really terrible in this movie, but I really hate the script for this movie and how something so long just felt so empty and left me with no impression. It never felt grand. It just felt like just the way movies are made these days, where they do so much, but where's the feeling? Where's the touch that great creative movies have? Movies that push the envelope, not just like sort of do the tried and true kind of things that movies that are big and made for families or whatever do. Like, yeah, those Alice in Wonderland movies are like exactly what I'm thinking of when I think of this. But yeah, I could say other things about this. But let's talk about the Oscars. This is nominated for 10 Academy Awards, and I don't think it should win a single one. I just find this to be a really bad path to go down for a visual idea of a film. And it just clearly feels to me like they did so much to just drag this out to be as long as possible for no reason. You could have still done a second part of Wicked and had this be like maybe 140 minutes or even less, like maybe be an hour and 45 minutes. It's just too much movie, too much nothingness for what this is. So I had to give this 1.5 stars. I really think only like the last half hour of this movie is where it really kind of does anything, and I was hugely disappointed. Like I fully expected to go into this movie and be like, yeah, it's nice, it's fine. And I was shocked at just like how this was made and how it was executed and how much I didn't really care for any of it. And the build up to the ending is just, it's like, wow, it took that long to get there. I am just glad I did not go see this in a theater. There would have been a lot of people around enjoying this, I'm sure. And I know people like this. It's got a high rating on Letterboxd, but no, it's not good. Wicked from 2024, directed by John M. Chu. It's 1.5 stars for me. Yes, that is the same rating I gave Emilia Perez. I think they are on the same plane of being bad. If you have to make me choose, which one do I want to rewatch first? I'll say Emilia Perez. It's shorter. I'm so sorry. No, I don't like Emilia Perez. It's really bad. Lots of bad choices. These are just two different kinds of bad. You know, two different kinds. Okay, that is the episode. Thank you so much for listening. What's coming soon? That is the question. I am gonna go see Companion in the theater. I got my ticket. I'm actually going tonight. I need to watch the new Bridget Jones Diary movie. Bridget Jones Mad About the Boy? That one? Yeah. What else is coming to theaters? I don't really think anything is coming. I'm not seeing Captain America, so don't expect that as a review from me. I don't know. I have tons of DVDs, you know that. But other things on streaming, I know there's other things I've missed. I still haven't watched the movie with Brandy. I do want to watch that. I'm a Brandy fan. I love her. Yeah, we'll talk. There'll be things. I will dip into whatever. We'll figure it out. But yeah, I'm Mallory. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast. Cinema 5000 on Bluesky and cinema5000.com is the website. And when I start posting things on YouTube, yes, I will start putting them on the website. So thank you so much for listening. I will talk to you when I talk to you in the next episode. Okay, bye.